Hi, I'm Tapas Fleming, and in a recent survey, one of you asked a question that was so super sweet for me. Thank you for asking it. You said, what's the difference between TAT and spiritual practice? I love that question. For me, TAT is spiritual practice. There is no difference. Any tradition you look into, forgiveness is such a big part of it. Forgiveness is so central to TAT. And the biggest thing about what TAT is and what it does is that it helps us de-identify from stuff we are not. You could say from parts of our mind or from identifications, from parts of us that are feeling like I am the victim or I am the perpetrator. Another of you wrote to me asking about, wow, how do I resolve a trauma when I was one of the people that caused it? So we get stuck on both sides of it, feeling like, oh my God, I hurt other people, and oh my God, I'm being so hurt. Those are the typical things we get, identified with emotionally. But there's just anything that we could be identified with. TAT is this supremely simple way to be de-identified with the stuff we are not. Things that our minds are saying, all the stuff we grew up with, like the things that we inherited genetically, the things that our families said all the time, the things that are within our extended family, what we heard from society, what was driven into our minds by media, by education, by religion. There are certain parts of it that may or may not be true. I'll just try and be nice about it and put it that way. But it allows us to, TAT allows us to be who we are in the most simple way. People feel when they're done like, oh my gosh, wow, I feel so peaceful. And they typically say, gosh, after I've meditated for 20 minutes or a half hour, I feel like this. But just doing TAT for a few minutes, I'm feeling like this. That's because we're not locked into the spin of our minds. We're not just being eaten alive by a thought that we're identified with, or a portion of our being, or a part of us that we're identified with. Our whole life isn't just being ground endlessly by whatever that is. So that's such a spiritual, cool thing to do. Plus, it's so easy to be involved in blame, endless blame for ourselves or others. And TAT allows us to be free of that. That's profound. And then in the Yoga Sutras by Patanjali, he talks about this a writer from India, ancient script from India, where he says if you want to attain liberation, to contemplate the opposites. So that just is what TAT embodies. I'm crazed to talk to you about it because I love what TAT is spiritually so much. So we're contemplating the opposites, like in just the simplest way, like that, say that divorce happened or that relationship breakup happened and I'm a mess. And then the opposite we're contemplating through the steps really is that happened, it's over, and actually I'm okay. So those are the opposites we're contemplating, or typically victim and perpetrator, like I said. We're contemplating both of those. We're contemplating things like I'm stuck resonating, identifying, and connecting with a belief like I'm no good. And then we're contemplating the opposite of that. We no longer need to resonate, identify, or connect with I'm no good. So what happens in that contemplation is that we become free because we are the one contemplating the opposites. We're not this and we're not that. So, who is in the middle? Who is the contemplator? Who's noticing these opposites that they're no longer identified with? It is you. And that's the big beauty of TAT. And then, of course, once a year at least, I do a spiritual retreat in which we contemplate the questions of life, like, who am I? So we're doing it in such a sublimely simple way. You work with someone who says to you, put your attention on who you are, intend to directly experience who you are, and tell me what you notice. That is such a super simple spiritual path. And people have profound experiences and things that they were identified with just so simply and easily release with TAT. I also think that karma comes from identifications from many lifetimes. So if you can have the experience of allowing yourself to not be identified with the doer of those things that you felt bad about, or you felt, hey, I worked really hard and 5 lifetimes and this time I'm going to be rich. No matter what, whatever, if you can be de-identified with all of that, you're not bound by that. That's the way I think about it anyway. The other thing about it too is it naturally develops compassion, and that is an aspect of the divine. So you're naturally more able to express love, experience love, take in love, and also, of course, be present, because there isn't the junk. There isn't the orbiting junk that's being present of past things you did you're ashamed of, things people told you you're hoping you're not, things you heard socially that you wish weren't true, just things that happened in your family, childhood stuff. All that junk is just poof, is gone. So you can simply be present, and for me that's what life is about. It's about us enjoying our own unique being and sharing our own unique self with each other, and that's what I'm about. I've never published the mission of TATLife, but it's really sharing the celebration of love, and that is my spiritual path. So whoever asked that question, thanks a lot. Thanks very much. Yeah, so if you do TAT, I think you're going to have some of these experiences for yourself. That's my intention for you. See you next time.